Pamela Coleman Smith, a video produced and directed by Reverend Dr. Dikki-Jo Mullen. In this video, Dr. Mullen will discuss the life story of Pamela Coleman Smith and her significant contribution to the contemporary use of the tarot in practice. It was Pamela Smith who composed the various images that we find in the Rider deck.
This is astrologer and paranormal investigator Dr. Dikki-Jo Mullen in Orlando, Florida, coming to you with the wonderful, intriguing story behind the tarot deck as we know it today. Pamela Coleman Smith, the First Lady of the Tarot. Pamela Coleman Smith was born near London, England on February the 16th, 1878. The astrological indicators of her birth foreshadowed her unusual life. Unexpected circumstances and eccentric or original personal choices often are linked to the lives of those born with the sun in Aquarius, and this is certainly true of Pamela. She came into the world just before a North Node eclipse of the full moon, a lunar eclipse in Leo, and often a person whose life has a lasting impact on the world will be born near an eclipse. Her legacy is the 78 paintings of the tarot cards in the Rider Waite or Waite Rider tarot deck. Her illustrations have touched the emotions and stimulated the intuitive perceptions of millions of people for over a century now. Pamela Coleman Smith was the first metaphysical practitioner to illustrate the 56 minor arcana cards. Those are the ones we know in the regular playing card deck, but with an extra court card. That's the difference between the 52 and the 56 cards. And then there are 22 major arcana cards. They tie in with the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And then also the visible planets and the zodiac signs. Pamela had a sprightly, lively personality which earned her the nickname Pixie. Photographs certainly support the whispered rumors that she was biracial. Some say her mother was Jamaican and her father was British. Other accounts describe her as being born of American expatriate parents in England. Her exotic appearance and eclectic dress even led to speculation she must be Asian, perhaps Chinese. She grew up between England, Jamaica, and New York. As is true with many Aquarians, Pixie had a wide circle of friends, which included William Butler Yeats, his son Jack Yeats, Alfred Stieglitz, and the theatrical personality Ellen Terry, and other notables in the theatrical and literary world of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Pamela was an initiate of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and worked closely with a number of occultists, especially the noted Arthur Edward or A.E. Waite. Pamela's Mercury was in Aquarius, revealing her brilliance and her originality. Mercury is exalted in Aquarius, along with her Aquarian sun in the North Node. Her sun was in mutual reception with Uranus in Leo, giving her the unusual natal marker of a retrograde sun because Uranus was retrograde. Mutual receptions occur when planets are in each other's ruling signs, and of course the sun rules Leo and Uranus rules Aquarius. So an Aquarian sun with Uranus and Leo gives this really fortunate exchange. It is life-enriching, and it brings a multi-dimensional quality and even shape-shifting capabilities in some circumstances. Pamela Smith's horoscope actually has 2 mutual receptions, both involving retrograde planets. Retrograde motion ties in a lot with past life karma, and it gives an unusual twist to the path of the life. The retrograde Sun-Uranus mutual reception points to many unexpected twists during the course of her life. She was by trade an artist, a theatrical designer, and a gifted storyteller. Her formal art training at the famous Pratt Institute in New York helped Pixie to develop her natural talents. The years she spent in Jamaica allowed her to learn traditional folk tales, which she told while performing in a West Indies-style costume upon returning to England as a young adult. Her Leo moon was conjunct the planet Uranus. This powerful, innovative influence reveals her charisma, theatrical flair, and dramatic ability. She made miniature theaters with characters she cut from cardboard and painted with tempera to include with her storytelling sessions. Her performances were in high demand for several seasons in turn-of-the-century London, 20th century London. Pamela also wrote and illustrated a number of books and pamphlets. She was born with Venus retrograde in Pisces in mutual reception with Neptune in Taurus. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, Venus is the ruler of Taurus. There is the mutual reception. Her Mars is conjunct Neptune in Taurus. This aspects are angular distances between the planets, has been especially linked with mystical talent and creative visualization. Sometimes a Mars-Neptune conjunction is called the lamp of Aladdin aspect, or the sign of a white witch, meaning positive. The Pisces influence also enhances her creativity and insights into the paranormal. Her Chiron and Pluto complete a 4-planet grouping called a stellium in Taurus, the sign of the bull. This Taurus pattern also accents the significance of music in her life. She would paint visionary impressions which came to her as she listened to Chopin, Bach, Beethoven, and Debussy. By 1903, her work earned her critical acclaim, and she sold 33 paintings at a single gallery exhibition in New York, which is quite a wonderful sale for a painter. Many of our famous classic painters were lucky to have sold 1 or 2. Van Gogh, for example, just sold 2 paintings during his entire lifetime. So Pamela started off pretty well. In 1909, Arthur Edward Waite guided her to undertaking the illustration of what was to become the most famous tarot deck of all time. Previous decks go back to at least the 1300s, but only the 22 major cards were illustrated, and the others just had symbols like a regular playing card deck. So it was really quite brilliant to have a picture symbol and the correct usable picture symbols to go with each of the 78 cards. Her fanciful imagination, affinity for ritual, and genuine occult talent are evident in this impressive work. Pamela's name does not appear on the deck, though. You can see her illustration of her initials as sort of the P with the swirling C and the S around it to look serpent-like for the Kundalini. But her name didn't appear. William Rider, the deck's original publisher, and Waite, who had authored a textbook about the tarot interpretation, received the acclaim and regrettably almost all of the money for the project. Pamela received only a token payment, which left her feeling really discouraged and disillusioned. Although both sides of her family were quite affluent and prominent, she struggled with financial insecurity throughout her life. This was apparently sparked by her own poor monetary choices. Astrologers take a look at the horoscope we have illustrated for her. You'll see there's a fixed T-square. More about that in a minute, involving Taurus, that all those Taurus placements, which do relate to money and financial planning. As is often with the case of a retrograde Venus, she never married. She shared housing with a female roommate named Nora Lake for many years. Pamela's Taurus planets square both the Leo and Aquarius placements. And as I mentioned, this creates a really difficult T-square, fixed T-square pattern. Fixed is just like it sounds. She was a person of habit. That, along with her natal Saturn, the responsibility planet, and impractical Pisces, reveal the extreme hardship her life lapsed into, particularly financial hardship, and this was because of her own poor business decisions. After World War I, she received a substantial inheritance from an uncle. She invested all of it in taking a long-term lease on a really large seaside property, and it was almost like a whole little village. It was so large. She wanted to start an artist's colony, and she called it the Lizard. This proved to be a disaster, really unproductive venture. Pamela then became a devout Catholic. Her Jupiter in Capricorn reflects her devotion to a traditional faith and religious practices. She established a church on the leased property when all of the artists had big falling outs and moved on, and she called it Our Lady of the Lizard. And she began to make a meager living by offering vacation accommodations to Catholic priests. It was in the tourist area of Cornwall, which would be, kind of like the Key West area or Daytona Beach of Florida today. During World War II, her physical health and financial situation went into extreme decline at the same time. She was finally forced to just abandon her leased property, and she and her companion moved first to Exeter, where they lived with members of Nora Lake's family. Later they were tossed out of there, and they went to Bude. Bude, which rhymes with dude, is in Cornwall, and it's kind of like Daytona Beach in Florida. It is a tourist area, resort area. Pamela continued to produce stories and artwork, but she had very little commercial success. Surviving correspondence from this time period reflect her futile attempts to collect financial remuneration. Her letters are filled with her requests for money. Her debts mounted. She became bedridden, and she died on September 18, 1951, at age 73. She was penniless and almost forgotten. Brings tears to my eyes. Pay no attention, I'm a Cancer. We cry about everything. Her possessions were auctioned off to satisfy her debts. Much of her work has disappeared, and there was nothing at all remaining to leave an inheritance for her longtime companion, which she really wanted to do. No obituary was published, no memorial service or grave marker to honor her life, which held such early promise, was ever found. And it's a delight and surprise to those who follow her story today to see that Pamela Coleman Smith's tarot deck has endured. Her visionary talent has also resurfaced in the rediscovery of some of her art and literature. This wonderful book came out around 2018 that details not only the tarot cards but other wonderful illustrations that show her visionary and psychic talent. And she continues to inspire succeeding generations of those who would live the magical life. The tarot cards are portals to higher states of awareness, and the many, many different tarot decks which have come on the market since her cards were rediscovered by a man named Stuart Kaplan, who just passed away in 2021, have been really the inspiration for the hundreds, maybe thousands by now, of different variations of the tarot that we have. And so in the 100 years since she drew her cards, the tarot has grown more than it did in the many hundreds of years, maybe longer. There is a theory that the tarot cards are the great library that once stood in Alexandria, Egypt, in a shorthand form preserved for generations to come. And if you look carefully at Pamela Coleman Smith's cards, they seem to have solved or cracked the code of the ancient Egyptian teachings. It's just a very intriguing study and story. Here is a copy of her tarot, her natal horoscope that we'll show, and I'll give you her positions of her planets at birth. This is a noon chart. It averages out the positions of the day because we don't have a birth time for her, but her actual birthday was on a Saturday, February 16th, 1878. Saturday is Saturn's day, and the poem about Saturday's child works hard for a living is, Monday's child is fair as a face, etc., etc. The child that's born on the Sabbath day is blithe and bonny and good. It's a good day, and so forth. Saturday shows her struggles, too. Her sun was in Aquarius, 27 degrees. Moon, 14 degrees Leo. Mercury, 5 Aquarius. Venus, 5 Pisces. Exact semi-sextile between Mercury and Venus, which is an artistic influence. Mutual receptions with Venus and Neptune, and with the Sun and Uranus. As mentioned, Mars in Taurus, Jupiter in Capricorn, 24 degrees. Saturn, 19 Pisces. Uranus, 27 Leo. Neptune, 5 Taurus. Pluto, 23 Taurus. Chiron, the planet of teaching, the healer, the wise censor at 0 Taurus. North Moon Node, 22 Aquarius. The noon birth time would give a rising sign of 29 Gemini, which actually really would suit her personality. But again, that is an averaged out birth time. For those who want to learn metaphysical development, I always suggest just getting a deck of the tarot cards, preferably Pamela Coleman Smith's deck, the Waite Rider Tarot, and looking at them every day. Just handle them, meditate on them, study them, and that will carry you forward into developing the different aspects of the sixth sense and higher consciousness. This is Dikki-Jo Mullen in Orlando, Florida.